My name is Dylan Clucas. My main medium is pottery. Not ceramics, pottery. I'm more of a potter than I am a ceramicist. It kind of starts when I'm a kid, I think. I've had a thought about it. And for me, it's probably rooted in graffiti. Graffiti being the first real thing I did artistically that I chose to do. I just remember being a kid and the lads one day had spray cans and I had drawn and I had messed around with stuff, but I never really did art, but the lads had spray cans. And I'll never forget, I'm probably giving too much information, but I'll never forget my mate Richie wrote the word Dickie on the wall. And that was it for me. It was like, okay, this is the funniest, stupidest thing. But when they gave me a go at the spray cans, I remember the lads were like, oh, I think I did a little stick man dude. And the lads were like, okay, that's actually good. And I remember thinking, okay, maybe this is my thing. So I thought about this, and it was like I tried to like pin a word to what it is I like about graffiti, and it's probably like the creative freedom. It's like there was nothing else in my life that I had chosen to do. I was a kid. You're trying to like figure out what you like doing, and just that was like, it didn't matter that if everybody else hated it, it was my thing. Like I decided, okay, this is the thing that I enjoy. And it was like one of them sort of moments for me where I realized like, okay, this is gonna be part of my character. Maybe I like subconsciously decided it. So I'd done pottery in Biffy. We had pottery as part of the arts, crafts and design. But I only did it once a week on a Friday, and if I'm being honest, I didn't like it at all when I did it in Biffy. When I came to Signal, that Keith, as well, he'll probably knock me out for saying this, but I like to say he coaxed me into trying it. He just kept telling me like, you know, I think you'd like this if you tried the wheel. I think you'd enjoy it. You could do this, and at first I kind of ignored him. I was like, yeah, okay, like that's your thing. Like he was the potter, but I tried the wheel with one of the other students one day, and it was just like, it was the same click as graffiti was. It was like, oh, I could see myself doing this. Like it was just one of them things. And then I was like, okay, where do you begin with what artists you like? If I'm doing pottery, is it pottery artists? But then I think back, it's probably my dad is one of them, strangely, and he'd never ever call himself an artist. So growing up, he did carpentry, he did building, he was a bit of everything, Swiss Army dad in terms of what he was doing. But he always had good taste in art. So I remember we had a Monet. It was of a train station, and it was in our bathroom. And like I always remember that picture and just staring at it when you were having a bath as a kid. And it was like, you just think the most random, like, why do we have a picture of a train station? But it was like thought invoking, because you'd sort of go on a little journey and try to figure out like what was going on, who painted it or whatever. But he also had a couple of Rothko prints, and they were just like the simple red and orange or whatever it was. But I remember being immersed with art in my household growing up, and it was never like forced on me, or it just naturally, like I was the one out of the kids, because I have 4 other brothers, I was the one who gravitated towards art. If I break it down to like painting, it could be Monet, not just because of the picture, but Impressionism. I like Banksy. I had a couple of graffiti artists that no one would know that were definitely relevant. seeing or cope, or they're very graphical, bright colours, and I can see that in my own graphic design work later. I can see, okay, that's probably um, where I got a bit of my taste from. And then going into pottery, I was kind of immersed in, with Keith being my uncle, like, and Keith being the teacher and Keith showing me everything. There's obviously aspects of my style that come from Keith's style, but we differ in a lot of ways in what we like in pottery. I gravitate towards graphical, really sharp, sort of, punchy aesthetics. Sometimes we fight over what glaze is better, but Keith would probably have to be included in the artists. And then Jeff, who trained Keith and who I did a little bit with. But funnily enough, Jeffrey and me enjoy the same ceramic artist, which is Richard Batterum. And Batterum is very clean, again back to the functional, very functional pottery. Just lets it speak for itself, not overdone, not in your face in a lot of ways, but still beautiful, functional art. So I think that's kind of, thinking about it again, it's like, it's so weird being here, because like, I remember, for me, again, I go back to like being a teenager, and I remember wanting to be an artist, and there's like a million reasons for why. I think it was like, you're trying to like shout into the abyss and have something come back to you, so you're doing something right. But I remember being a teenager and like sitting in my attic, which is now my pottery studio, weirdly. And just thinking, like, if only I could do X, if only I could paint, if only I could dance, if only I could sing, how much happier I would be. So like, now, where I'm at now, and I'm comfortable because I'm doing something that I really am passionate about and really enjoy, I think my advice would be for people to be kind to themselves, because I think people are way too harsh when it comes to their own creativity, and sometimes you do things a certain way, and you're not really forgiven for yourself. You're not really loose enough to understand when you're making progress. So I think the best advice I could give is, like, be kind to yourself when you are learning and creating, but then it's good to have like something you can focus on to aim towards as a goal. That would be like my general advice. Yeah, so like, I am making generally in my attic, in my ma's house, in the house I grew up in, and it's been a lot of things throughout the years. I think at first it was my brother's room, and that's always, like, my association has always been like, right, that's Robert's room, right? And like I said, I remember having like really bad summers. It was a very particularly bad summer where I felt very down, and I didn't go out and do much, and the attic became like, metaphorically, like a jail cell. I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to go out. I didn't want to do anything. And I had the thoughts I was talking about. It was just like, I wish I could be this thing that I've always wanted to be. If only I could do this. But watching the attic go from that sort of, mental block to actually being the place now where you can't get me out of the attic. Like, and it's the same kind of for Signal. Signal holds the same. The ceramics room down there, it's just like an extension of my own little space. So I think they both have this unique, good energy that you get from them. I think Signal has been the catalyst for actually getting my work presented. Like, in a way, like graffiti, when you do graffiti, you put it out there, and it's like, I've talked about it before, it's like this forcible exchange. You're forcing people to look at your work. And that's why I think it gets this like real bad negative rep, because it's like it's not an equal exchange, you know. They're not wanting, some people don't want to look at XYZ, but with Signal was like this really good filter that, like, once I started to make pottery, it's like it's all there. You're in a gallery space, you're learning on CE, and then they facilitate like you actually being able to then take what, if you did this at home, if I was to just do pottery at home, for example, like you're so askew from the actual scene that it's like, it's great that you made a couple of pots, but like how do I get to selling a pot without meeting this person, without knowing about marketing, without doing that? And Signal's kind of made it like a hub, a little package where it's like, okay, I can produce pottery here and learn as I go, but then like you put the filter of Signal onto it, and then they're showing you, okay, here's a metal, here's an SAS show, here's you can put a piece into this, you can do the Christmas, you can make bits for the Christmas fair, and you're constantly like being geared towards the idea of being a professional artist or potter or whatever. So Signal has been like imperative to me being like brave enough to want to try show my work in a sellable situation, as opposed to just like, sometimes I'd be real reserved and just sort of, I'd make for myself and be, I don't care if people buy them. But secret, everybody does want their stuff to sell. So like Signal has been like just this really good progressive ladder for helping me be comfortable enough to want to sell my work. But Misery Loves Pottery for me has been a way for me to channel the negative into the craft, the pottery, and then sort of share it with other people who love pottery. But to do that, it was a long journey because of the lung collapse, and so like I spent a month and a half in hospital last year. I had a spontaneous pneumothorax, which sucked. But essentially, I had started to learn pottery from Keith. We were making a lot of good progress. I was really starting to get passionate about it. And then just one of the weeks I came home from work, I sat down, and it was like Dave hit me a headbutt in the back. It was horrible. I had this horrible pain. And for a day, I tried to make pots with the collapsed lung. I don't know what I was up to, but I was trying to ignore the collapsed lung. And the next day I rang the doctor. He said, come straight down. He checked me, full collapsed lung, sent me straight into hospital. And it was just like an ordeal from there. But essentially it was like this just brick wall that I hit in my progression with pottery. It was like I had this thing that I was getting so passionate about, that I really wanted to do, that I was enjoying so much, and then it's like slap, I could never do, in my head I was like, I might actually never make pots again now, and I'm really starting to enjoy it, and I just instantly back to that teenage depression that I had in the attic. It's just like I might never get to pursue this thing that I had seen myself doing. And the show me and Keith had talked about doing before I had got injured, we talked about just having a show here, like putting the pots on display. But when I got out, I remember thinking to myself, okay, look, I could go two routes with this. I could wallow and like feel really bad for myself, or I could try to channel it into something. And that's what I did. Like within a month of the surgery, I was trying to sit on my wheel at home. And trying is a big word there, because like I couldn't even sit down at the wheel. I'd go down and I'd cry and I'd be in pain. I'd take a million painkillers to try not be in pain. And I'd go back up the next day and I'd try to sit at the wheel. And a couple of weeks went by and I'd like managed to throw a little mug, and the date for the show had been decided by me and Keith, and I had this date in my head, and it was like the fire. I was like, okay, I've got a year and a bit to get better, to make pots for a show. Like it was just like, it was like the way I sort of feel about it now is like it was the marathon finish line, and the process of getting to it was the most important thing. Like, could I channel the want to be a potter into my recovery in order to make it to this date? And it's so surreal now and weird that like we're only a week or two away from it. Touch wood that I don't could be tomorrow I trip up and it'll happen again, but like I've gotten so close now that I'm like proud to say like, okay, I did that thing that I mentally set out to do. Like I could have just let it be this pity party, but like I knuckled down and I like made a body of work that I can say, okay, I did an exhibition. I did everything that I thought that I couldn't do the first few days. Like I've done it, you know what I mean? It doesn't matter about the outcome of the show, because for me it was literally about getting to the finish line. So it sort of continues on from like the underpinnings of the show. Like the Misery Loves Pottery thing is a real thing. It's not like, I realised by facilitating the classes here and getting to meet other people and having colleagues that share a similar story, whether it's through like, you know, mental pain or physical pain, it doesn't matter. We're all trying to do something to make ourselves feel better in one way or another. Like I see other people being strong, and it made me push on. And I won't get too specific, but like I've seen students who have incredible stories themselves that you could write books about, and like when I meet them and they're having the same pains when we talk, the same feelings, but like there they are, they're showing up to continue. They're not letting it define them as a person. And the same with colleagues, like incredible people who aren't just being their disability or their pain or whatever. They come to work every day and they show up for the people in their classes. It was like, okay, this is like a powerful thing. This sort of channeling your negative things into a positive thing. So the Misery Loves Pottery is the encapsulation of like, okay, yeah, we all do love to share how miserable we are, but at the same time we're using pottery or painting or drawing as this tool to feel better in some way. So like the show, and what I want people to take from the show is that like collective experience of like, even if you are having horrible things going on, I gained a lot of comfort from the fact that like I'm not the only person who's in pain. There is other people going through it, and like to be able to then make the pots and like physically put my pain into the pot that I can show, if people can take away any aspect of that, it would make me happy, you know, the keep going sort of mentality. Yeah, I think that's the green lad beside me. The green jar is towards the latter half of my making for the show, and it's like, it's sort of it. Sometimes with pots you want to make a pot, and it doesn't come out the way you wanted it to be, but you still make a good pot or a decent pot. The green guy is like, everything about it is me. It was like I picked something that I wanted to do and I very specifically made it. And it was like, after doing training with Jeff and after being coached by Keith so much, and sort of, you know, you're learning about desirable qualities for pots and what makes a good pot and all of this. And then when I sat down to make the pot, the shape was the exact shape I was going for. The handles on the side are the exact type of handle I wanted. I trimmed it the right way. The lid sits the right way, debatably. but just everything about it was like a true expression of what I wanted to do with a pot. I've some other pots that are nice and they're decent, but the green guy is just one. I won't be mad if someone doesn't pick it up on the night. I wouldn't mind it sitting on the shelf for a while, because it's just like, it encapsulates all of the things that I wanted to do when I was making pots. So it's probably that guy. But really for me, it's that misery loves pottery thing. Like, it has become like this weird like underpinning current for a lot of what I'm doing. And like, if people can take anything from me, like that, if they can get a similar feeling of like, okay, look, he did have a collapsed lung, he had a lot of stuff, you know, going on, and he was able to make a body of work. And like, you could be an artist or a potter or whatever, and you're unsure because you have this thing going on at home, you have that thing going on in work, you have physical pain, you have this or that, and it's like, if you could see somebody else do it like I did with my colleagues and my students, when I seen them continue, if someone gets the same thing from me, then I win, I suppose. And the same with, if somebody ever gets the inkling or the passion for pottery, then, you know, I'm doing something right.